Okay. Good evening, everybody. And I begin with an apology. This is what comes of being on continuously on a learning curve. We never realized that Zoom does not allow you to host two events at the same time, no matter what is the kind of account that you have. So we scheduled the quiz and the conversation with Rags at the same time. And then we were duly admonished by Zoom, which told us, ha, you can't do that. And thereafter, we had to postpone Rags's event because the quiz had very cleverly already begun. So there was no question of stopping the quiz at the last minute. And therefore, my apologies to Rags, first of all, and my thanks to him for being such a sport, for agreeing to come on despite this last minute goof up on my side. And I thank all the members of the audience who have deemed it fit to still come at the end of the day. I think it speaks volumes about Rags rather than anything else. And I also can see Mr. Mutaya smiling from up in the heavens saying, all this technology is absolute bunk, Appa. You can never depend on these things. Always rely on the good old face-to-face meetings. They are the best. But then what to do? You know, we are in a different kind of a situation. So I welcome Rags to this event, as I welcome all the people here as well. Firstly, Rags was not somebody whom I have known for years and all that. It was my friend, Dr. Vijay Sriram, who first introduced me to Rags. And just a couple of years ago, when he said that I have been to Hampi with Rags, and you should see the kind of photographs that Rags takes of various things as he, that catches attention. And you should meet him. He's a guy with a brilliant sense of humor. And thereafter, Vijay being Vijay, organized for a dinner meet where I met Rags for the first time. And after that, whenever I have felt a little down about anything, I call Rags and speak to him on the phone, and I come away from the phone call considerably cheered up. This afternoon, he cheered me up hugely by a story which I don't know whether we can share with the audience over here. But Rags, later I discovered, had worked with Mr. Mutaya in the initial years of Madras Musings, and he told me stories about a very funny side of Mr. Mutaya as well, which when I related to the chief, he just smiled and said, yes, those were the good old days, thereby indicating that the current days where Sriram was working on Madras Musings were not very good days. But I will leave it at that. And let's begin our chat with Rags. So Rags, you always have said that you're an old Madras hand. So can we start with the baby Rags and the child Rags and, what happened and the story at the beginning, omitting no detail, however slight?
Sure thing, Sriram. Thank you very much. Thank you, friends. I am a proud citizen of this city. I was born in Madras, educated in Madras, lived all my life in Madras. Yes, I have traveled far and wide, but this has been my home base, or at least so far, as we speak. Now, I was born in Ranga Nursing Home on Mowbray's Road. Many of you know that. Then my aunt was a matron over there. We lived, my toddler years were in Judge Jambalingam Street, Mylapore. Then we moved to Laz Avenue behind Amrutanjan. Then we moved to Sidaraman Road, Arwapet. Then we moved to Mowbray's Road, which was later became TTK Road, and so on and so forth. There are lots of water run down the bridge, under the bridge, and we are now, my family and I were living in Thiruvanmiyur on the beach for the past 15 years. Now, photography, let me talk briefly, or maybe I should brag about it. The different building blocks that comprise of me. From a very young age, I was interested in photography. I was interested in music. I learned to play the guitar. I am self-taught all the way. Nobody taught me to photography or the guitar. I learned guitar and photography. Then I am keen bird watcher, nature and environment enthusiast. I was on the board of trustees Chennai Snake Park for 22 years till I quit in 2017. Then not only do I shoot with camera, I also shoot with a firearm. I am a target shooter, senior member of the Chennai Rifle Club, having won bronze medals twice in 2000 and 2004 in two different shooting disciplines, one in air rifle, the other is in firearm. And the list goes on. And the list probably goes on. I have my own putter at home, if you know what I mean. I'm a very keen DIY enthusiast. I generally go around fixing things around the house and so on and so forth. So that's me. So before my swollen head explodes, I will pass it back to Sriram.
Rags, when did you get to meet the chief?
Well,
after you have said your story, I will share how I met the chief, which is a totally different story.
okay.
But
The chief was, somebody loaned me a book called Madras Discovered, a paperback. I read a few pages. Few pages became 10, became 20, became 30, and I read it threadbare end to end like a novel. And I was telling myself, my God, how much of research has gone into this book? Who is this person? Yes, Muttaya. And in fact, there are some of those chapters which I read again and again, where the deer and the black buck play, from the mall to the mount. You know, I mean, you could actually see the Madras through Muttaya's eyes as you went along reading line by line. So that book started it all. Then let's put this book away back on the shelf for a while. Then in my office, we were getting the Madras Musings freebie fortnightly, and gently thumb through it. And the nice thing about was that it picks up stories which other newspapers tend to neglect. So usually some niche stuff in there. So going through that and flipping through it, and then my eyes popped. There's a little box ad says, wanted, freelance photographer. Contact S. Muttaya, 825-4712. How can I even forget that? In my date of birth, I can forget, but not his phone number.
My goodness, you're able to remember that, huh?
So I used to call him every day, and he used to call me almost every day.
Well, so, I called Mr. Muttaya every day, but I can't remember the phone number that I called. You know, this was less than how many years ago. I can't remember that at all, but that's wonderful.
So I did make a call to him. He said, come over. And a couple of days later, I went over to his house on Vijay Raghavan Lane. He asked me to sit down. So, yeah, what your name? Raghavan, where are you from? So we generally started chit-chatting, and I noticed he had the Sri Lankan twang about it. I have worked with Sri Lankans when I was away in the Middle East, so I could identify all that. And we started talking. And he said, look, we don't pay very much. I said, I didn't come here to get paid. I want to walk in your footsteps. I want to carry a camera and go do stuff which you've done. You have not taken pictures, but I want to do all of that. I mean, this is quite exciting for me because I associate myself so well with the city. There's something I should do about it. So the commercials were sorted out very quickly. And I said, when am I on assignment? He said, right now, right? So every day he will call me. He'll call and say, Raghavan, near Ripon building, this side Nams Road, the fourth left you take, and he'll go. He'll give me some address or an old house or a relic or something of the sort, which is quite priceless, which nobody's even noticed. How he noticed all that, I don't know. What a man. So I used to go around, do these pictures. Sometimes he'll say, just do pictures and come. I've already got the story in my head. Or sometimes he'll say, can you do a little write-up also? No problem. Get some information. Likewise, I'm compressing a long story short. I have been to just about every corner of this gracious city. Largely it was North Madras. Coming down to Mount Road, naturally Roypatra, Tiplican, Mylapore, the old quarters of the occupied areas of Madras. Much less, I think the furthest south I ever came was Theosophical Society. Very little to the west, because the east was only the Bay of Bengal. But there's a lot I could do for him, and he used to call me every day and do this, do that, do that. Now you'll be probably wondering, why is this man going around doing pictures for free? I mean, what is he doing for a living? But this was not my bread and butter. I am an air conditioning engineer, and I that was my business. So I used to be on the road all the time on my motorcycle or my car. So in this case, only I had to bung in an extra battered old Nikon, which I still have, and go around, carry his checklist, go around, do these pictures. Fairly simple, no rocket science. Especially if it's buildings from outside, not a problem. Sometimes you have to go in and meet people, no problem. So we did all of this, and to a point where there's so much to be discussed or shown, and this 1 hour is not enough. But with Sriram's help, rather in agreement with Sriram, we put together some of the funny side of working with Muttaya as anecdotes. There are 5 or 6 of this, which I'd like to share with you people. I'd like to share this with you people because I've always laughed at those things myself, saying, what kind of situations I've been in, thanks to Muttaya, So there I'm not going to talk about the sedate interviews, this, that, take a picture, okay, blah, blah, blah. This is not going to be discussed. Today is only going to be a fun evening. And I put together some anecdotes and we shall hit the road. Now, let's pretend we are getting into a bus, and who's driving the bus? It's Malraj, who's Muttiya's driver for many years. So we get into a bus.
They used to have these famous flaming rows with each other where Malraj and Muttaya will not talk to each other for a few days because Malraj had increased the speed of the car from 25 kilometers per hour to 27 kilometers per hour or whatever it was, and had driven over a few bumps. And then when you go there, you will find that Muttaya and Malraj are sulking. When you go to the entrance, you ask Malraj, Muttaya sir, irkara? Irkara. So if you knew that there was something wrong, then they'd make peace. They were a great combination.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've now got into a bus which Malraj is driving. Our first stop is Victoria Public Hall. Now, one of the fortunate few, I am one of the fortunate few to have actually gone into VPH. I'll explain all that in detail and how it started and how it ended. But VPH basically is a large auditorium, and the building is surrounded by, it's pockmarked with little pigeonhole rooms, which have now become offices. Those offices are Tamil Nadu Kabaddi Association, Tamil Nadu Chess Association, Tamil Nadu Coco Club, that kind of thing. See, these lesser known sports, which never gets much recognition in this country, is sadly delegated to VPH. Of course, the tier 1 sport, which we all know so well, that is probably flourishing in a 4-story central air conditioning building, but we won't talk about that. So we'll talk about VPH. So at that point, VPH was being renovated, if I'm right, by the TVS group. And so Mr. Muttaya's influence and the TVS influence, they managed to contact the caretaker and they opened up the doors, and I went into VPH. Now, it was an incredible experience for one thing, and mixed feelings. It was murky and dark, and there's dust in the air. It was almost like I was smelling 200-year-old air, like the windows and doors had not been opened, musty, dusty. The walls were clean, the stage was clean, the huge coat of arms of Victoria right on top. The gallery was okay. The woodwork was all okay, but in a bad state of disuse. As is always the case, every now and then there is a philanthropic organization that picks up the tab for doing up the place, but that comes up and then goes down for whatever reason. But I'm so glad VPH still exists. I mean, they could have knocked it down and built a cement factory there, right?
Rags, the point is, which year did you go there to take that photograph?
Ella from 93 to say 97.
Do you know that same renovation scheme is still ongoing and it has not seen the light of day even one bit?
I see. Okay. It
This
just
is
happens.
2021.
Like Senate House.
Yeah, no, Senate House, at least they renovated it and then locked it so that nobody could get back inside it again. VP Hall, they are still on that renovation and still talking about it after so many years. Nothing has happened. Anyway.
So did these pictures, set up my tripod. I had to get out in a hurry because I'm allergic to dust. Set up various angles, ceiling, this various perspectives, went up the gallery, took some pictures, and I was very happy to come out simply because I wanted to breathe clean air. But it was quite an experience. After having come out, the VPH cornerstone has already sunk into the ground. It's halfway under the ground because of constant road laying and all that. Half the stone is under the ground. So Mutaya told me, how are you all going to do this picture, man? You want to be an earthworm or what? You know? So I said, let me see. I'll have to go there and see what to do about this. Meanwhile, the caretaker was such a nice guy. He brought on Gadapare, dug while I was waiting. He excavated the cornerstone and cleaned it up and took some pictures and all that and dusted the dust off our hands. Okay, 2 hours well spent. And then I sort of looked left. Arre, the steeple. So I told this caretaker, can I go up that steeple? Ponga sir. Ninga Tarala Pola, Ningle Varangla. So he opened up the door for me and I started climbing the stairs. Wooden staircase. I don't remember if they were perfectly spiral or they were squarish, but I was going up the stairs. Some of the steps were missing, some of the cracks, and everywhere you touch is cobwebs and dust, misuse galore. I must have gone up to the second floor when suddenly I flushed a colony of bats which were sleeping up there in the rafters. How I made it down the stairs without breaking my teeth is a mystery. And friends, these are not these little pipistrel bats which you see in our gardens. These are these flying foxes. They're about 2 feet wingspan, flying foxes or the giant fruit bat. They're big fellows. They look like dogs with wings, you know, and they flew down and I ran. So now I realized why the caretaker didn't bother coming with me up the stairs. So I went and told him this. I said, dude, there's bats up there. Sir, you want me to stop and count or what? I mean, I had to run like crazy to get out of it. So we came down, they sealed the place, and MM ran the feature. Mr. Mutaya told me very proudly, for the first time in Madras Musings, it's a double spread. Usually you have a picture here or a story here and a story and a picture there, but the center spread was all for VPH, right? And now Malraj is waiting for us. We'll get back into the bus and I'll take you to the Armenian church on Armenian Street. So Mutaya told me, hey Raghavan, when you go to Armenian church, you will meet this Father Gregorian. He's a cranky old bagaman, short-tempered. But you go and meet him, he'll even let you take pictures. You all know if he's in a good mood, no, he'll even ring the church bell for you. So, wow, incentive. So I went to Armenian church. Most of you have been there, and those of you who haven't, it's open from 9 to 2 o'clock. There is no worship happening. Only, I think once or twice a year, a special team of or a parish comes down here to conduct worship. Otherwise, it's a heritage monument. You go in there, you enter through the arch, flight of stairs, enter to the arch, get in there, you can see the belfry, then you see in the church, and you can see some corridors, and a lovely little garden, and I remember there's an opal well. It's like time has stood still in the spot. So I went there clutching my battered Nikon, looking around for this priest, when suddenly somebody barked from upstairs. Who's that? Who are you? And he came. When Mutaya said he's I have to meet a priest. I was expecting somebody in flowing white robes or that kind of thing. No, this fellow had disheveled hair, daddy. He had a cut bunian, full water bunian, shorts, and he came running down the stairs. Who are you?
He
Why
was
are you
wearing
coming?
a banian. Huh? When I met him, he was wearing only the shorts.
Okay, this had holes in it.
You actually saw a lot more of him than what you wanted.
So he said, what are you doing here? I said, look, I'm representing Madras Musings, the fortnightly, Mr. Muttiah. The minute he heard Mr. Muttiah, the man sort of calmed down in a relative sense. Then he said, he showed me, go do what you want kind of thing. So I spent a lot of time going down uh, inside the bell tower, the pulpit, and the lovely old Corinthian columns they have there. Got all this on film. And I was about to leave in about an hour or so. I was about to leave. So Father Gregorian was hanging around there. So I remembered this. Muttiah said, if he's in a good mood, no, he'll ring the bell for you. So I wanted to go up to the man to find out if he's in a good mood or not. Now, at this juncture, the main door opened about 40, 50 feet away, and a whole bunch of foreign tourists trooped in. Right? Now, for Armenian Street, don't get me wrong, no offense, I'm Armenian Church. I think the minimum qualification to go see the church must be 75 years. These are a bunch of old geezers. They're on wheelchairs, but all smiling. Yeah? They're all smiling. They're so happy. They've come all the way to Chennai or Madras to see the last stronghold of an Armenian parish. I mean, it's a great thing for them, right? So they started trooping in. So I started taking pictures of them coming in through under the arch, a nice composition, taking pictures. When this man, when Father Gregorian, he started muttering loudly. So he was actually cursing. He was saying things like, goddamn tourists come to waste my time, bloody this, everything, this, that. So I stopped looking at the tourists and gawking at this man. Hello, excuse me, you're a man of God. You shouldn't be talking like this. He kept at it, right? Cursing, expletives. Finally, he cooled down and the tourists went about their way. And there was this sort of pregnant silence, what to do next. I still kept remembering Muttiah saying, if he's in a good mood, no, man, he'll ring the bell for you. This fellow would have wrung my neck for me at that point, right? And sadly, Father Gregorian passed on a few years later.
Yeah.
So that was the story of.
Now we have a caretaker called Alexander.
I see.
Who is a very friendly individual. But if you go there, he's unable to ring the bell because he's had a health issue and he doesn't have the strength for it any longer. But the church is still beautifully
very nice. Yes.
And unlike Victoria Public Hall. And around 10 years ago, one day we were all summoned by Alexander to land up immediately. So Tara, Murali, Sujata, Shankar and I, we rushed. And there we found that there were around 8 or 9 people. We have never seen such large individuals. They were all 6'4" by 6'4" by 6'4". They were all Armenians. They had come to inspect the church and they were going to spend money on its renovation. So you look at VP Hall's story and then you look at the Armenian church story. Within 1 year, they had completed the renovation. No help from anybody. They just funded it. A team of local masons, contract carpenters, they all descended on the place, completed the renovation. Then one day they called us and said, we would like you to come. And their head, like their Pope Pandavar or whatever he had come wearing outstandingly beautiful clothes and some lovely jewelry. And then we were all asked to kiss his hand. And I told Tara, I'd like to steal that ring from his finger. She said, you just try it. They'll wring your neck. But this shows, what willpower to restore. And 1 year they had completed it. And this VP Hall were looking at 30 years or something and nothing happening. Armenian church is still open for everybody. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
No. I like these little interludes. Thanks for that. So we move from Armenian Street. We move on to, we are going down the road because Mr. Muttiah had asked me to find out an address. So we're all in the bus, and put the bus starts moving, and I stick my head out of the bus and ask a man there in a pushcart selling bananas, Inga Angappa Naikan Street, so that pushcart vendor says, Ninga Nera Ponga on the Sayapu Katanar Killa, Adiperta Bombay Motal building. What he meant was Bombay Mutual Building. Okay, Bombay Mutal Building. Now, it doesn't mean that every time Mutaya sent me out on an assignment like this, I had to have an hilarious interlude. There are times I've had hell too. The cop threatened me, watchman never let him said, "Enna musing sir, that kind of thing." This is Gaslight era movie theater on Waltax Road called Waltax Road Cinema, right?
Ottrai Theatre.
Theatre. Theatre. Apparently, it's very it's demolished now.
Rag, so do you have any photos of it still with you? Any negative, any print?
I'll come to that. Okay. So Mutaya said, find this place with great difficulty. Investigative journalism at its best. I parked my bike somewhere, went around asking rickshaw pullers. They're a tough neighborhood. They showed me the place. The place there, wrought iron signboard and all that, but it's locked. Then I had to talk some more and sweet talk these guys and telling me where this owner is. The owner is a hardware trader near Ratan Bazar. I go find that man. And I tell him on the theatre, theatre. He's very brusque. And I said, look, I want to go and take pictures. This kind of thing, and this is all very often you used to go get this kind of treatment being chased away. And I pissed him off even more by saying, then he's something. So getting chased out was also part of the big deal. But here today we're looking at all the funny incidents which happened. So after Bombay Mutal building, we do a detour and we are coming back to Madras. But before that, how did Mr. Mutaya react to all these anecdotes? So actually, if I go to Mr. Mutaya and say, look, I've done these pictures, text, fine, perfectly all right. But he was looking forward to something very funny after a point. So Mutaya was the type who will, I am certainly somebody, when I laugh, I guffaw, kind of thing. I just lose control. Mutaya will lean back and go. He's all building a pressure inside, He's guffawing inside, kind of thing. Which means having a good time. So I came to a point when he said, you seem to be liking this job very much, no? I said, not all of it, but it's great fun going around the city and meeting people and getting to know places and people which I've never knew existed before, right? So from that time on, we did pictures and pictures and pictures. And where are my pictures being developed? I used to get it done in Mylapore. I used to get it done mostly in Mylapore. Mutaya was very, very critical. He looked at the picture and say, Raghavan, if this is not good here, it can't be good there. You have to make a good print. So I used to make sure high contrast black and white prints. Finally, I stumbled upon one Mr. Kannappan. He too passed on, bless his soul. He was the master of black and white in Adayar, who used to make all my pictures for musings. And Mutaya was very, very happy that I finally found a good printer. Right? Then we are heading towards Raipeta or Triplicane. Memory fails me. Mutaya had asked me to meet a medical practitioner who was treating people either with magnets or water therapy or something like that. I don't remember. So, typical, remember, He's doing all this research long before Google and internet. So am I. I didn't have any Google map to guide me. Yanga, in the address, I'll go around with the addresses like this. In the address, one fellow once at one tea shop near, he picked up the address. He kept the paper with him. Then I was stuck. You know, and I had to come back to the tea shop to find him. See, all those fun trials and tribulations of those days. So I went to this place and rang the bell. It's a typical Triplicane street house. Vertical bars. You can see a staircase going upstairs. Sort of gloomy interior. Ring the bell. A young lady, 16, 17. She comes to the door. Endanga, Emperor Raghavan, Madras musings fortnightly. I want to meet Dr. So-and-so. So this girl didn't take her eyes off me. Staring at me, she yells up the staircase. Yapa, the Madras nuisance. Then I had to correct her saying, look, it's not nuisance, it's musings. Anyway, I got the job done. This is a little interlude. And now, where are we heading? We are now in Rayapeta, in Mirsahipet. So Mutaya and his journalism, investigative journalism without any technology or whatever, wherever he picked up the information, maybe he read it from books, maybe it was hearsay, but he put it all together and they made the job so easy for me. He said, Raghavan, you go to Mirsahipet after the Amir Mahal Mosque, you keep going on the left, somewhere there you have to find out. There is a Chinese cemetery. Oh man, a cemetery for the Chinese. So park my bike or scooter or whatever. Finally found the place after checking with a few people. The wrought iron gates locked. A woman sitting there in front selling something or the other. So I told her, in the இதுக்குள்ள எப்படிமா போறது? இது யாரும் வருது இல்லைங்க, அங்கெல்லாம் யாரும் வருது இல்லை, கூட்டியே இருக்கு. ஆமா, யாராவது செத்தாதான் வருவாங்க, இங்க எதுக்கு திறந்து வைக்க போறாங்க? சரி, இதுக்குள்ள போய் நான் போடலாமா? நீங்க அந்த செவரேறி குதிங்க, ஒரு பிரச்சனை இல்லை, யாரும் கேட்க மாட்டாங்க. Jumped over that wall, was say waist height, jumped over that wall, went into the cemetery. It was overgrown with undergrowth. Okay, waist high plants have grown. God only knows what is in there. So I managed to hack my way through some of those, that Amazon jungle, found 3 or 4 gravestones. Yes, Chinese. There must have been about 40, 50 of them. With whatever rag I had, I cleaned them up, took some pictures, set up my tripod and doing some pictures. When all of a sudden, 3 men scaled the wall and come and join me. Now, the lead man was wearing a towel around his neck and he had 2 gundas to his side. So lead man barked, "Na pandringa?" I said, "Na patrikayila irundhu varanga, idanga paper, idanga camera." He cooled off. For a moment, I thought I was going to be buried in the Chinese cemetery. But man actually cooled off. He didn't say anything. He was just watching me work. Right? I'll take man with a towel. So, and I was feeling very uneasy. I was getting hypertension. I wanted to leave the place badly. So I packed up my stuff and anybody else would have said bye to that lead man and gone. Now I went to Sumandra. I went and in the meanwhile, his towel has fallen off his shoulder. I'm sorry, I should have told you that. His towel slipped off his shoulder and his right arm was only a stump, about this much, right? Only a stump. I should have just ignored it. Curiosity almost killed the cat. I went and asked him, "Ennachinga kai ennachin?" Ada aruval sandela vettitaanga.
Odd.
Now I did a pole vault without a pole from this Chinese graveyard out onto my scooter and raced back to tell Mutaya this. So these these are the things which I wanted to share with you. It's so much fun. It's just not taking notes and reports and all that. There have been so many of those interviews. The interviewee will say, okay, you've taken my picture, you've taken the notes, fine. But I want you to send me the manuscript and the photo. I will select the photo. I will select the text. Then only you can publish it. Muttiah said, go to hell, man. We'll do what we want. No, this sort of thing. So after the Chinese cemetery, the close call to the Chinese cemetery, our bus, are we keeping good time, Sriram?
Yeah, but there is a growing demand on the side saying, when is Rags going to show us his pictures?
Okay, I've been watching that. To all those who are very keen, the pictures, sadly, as negative forms were handed over to Mr. Muttiah and bromide prints. Right? They were all prints handed over to him. I want to ask Sriram if it is all possible to access his archives to see we can build up some kind of library.
Much of what he had has been given to the Roja Muttiah Research Library. My guess is we'll have to ask them, but they are very friendly. I mean, I can ask them. That's not a problem. And we can find out if the negatives are there. If they are not, then we'll have to ask his daughters whether they know about the whereabouts of the negatives.
Even if the prints are there, we can do high quality scans today.
Yeah,
we can journal all of them and curate all of them, bring them back to life. So for those who are, I've been watching the chat column here asking for pictures. Unfortunately, no. I'm your picture today because I have time trying to explain this as graphically as possible.
Yeah, but then your quirky eye pictures are there.
I will show that during the end. Towards the end. And now we come to a very well-known women's college on Cathedral Road. Right? You come there, a bus is parked there because Muttiah said, Raghavan, this college is sending about 8 or 9 of their students. They're all going on a mountaineering expedition to Annapurna base camp or something. Pardon me, got my, but it's a one hell of an adventure. So can you go there and see what it's all about? They're having a session. So I went there, clutching my battered Nikon, to the large classroom, stage there. The classroom was already filled up with some students. The front row was, of course, for people like me, like press or people like that. And on the stage, there were about 8 to 9 young ladies in tracksuits. Obviously, the young mountaineering team. So I go there and sit down in the front row, and first thing they give me is a press release. I never knew what a press release was. Press release basically is a cyclo-style piece of paper with lots of information saying this tomorrow when you publish something, this is what you publish. No, don't get adventurous. You stick to what's in here. That's a press release. So I put that away and I sit down, and they were waiting for the chief guest. And then the chief guest arrives. He is a Hollywood hero. No names. Please don't send me chat messages. No names.
I'm just sending you one.
Okay. He's a, okay. You might be able to figure out towards the end.
Yeah.
The white full shirt, white waisty. He walked in with 5-6 henchmen, and surprising how the henchmen didn't join him on the stage, but they sat with me in the audience. Chief guest went on stage. Pleasantries began. The principal spoke, the vice principal spoke, introduced all the young mountaineers, so on and so forth. And the mic went to the hero because he's the chief guest. Now this hero, he launched off on some non-stop drivel on which had nothing to do with mountaineering, mostly courage, valor, stamina, where not in real life, in movies, in movies, and go on and on and on. And at one point it was getting to be pretty boring when one of the dignitaries from the stage got up and said, sir, sorry to interrupt. Can you please give us your words of advice for the young ladies who are going to be climbing the mountain? Silence fell in the hall. Why? Words of wisdom are about to flow. I set up my Nikon to 1/500th of a second. I didn't want to miss the decisive moment. And this man stood up and said, நீங்க கயிறை பிடிச்சி மேல ஏறுறீங்கல்ல, மேல பார்த்துட்டே போங்க. தப்பி தவறி கூட கீழே பார்க்காதீங்க. Now the last 5 rows of girls are already rolling in the floor with laughter. I'm in the front row. I can't even guffaw. I'm now laughing like Muttaya kind of thing. And the vice principal, I think she saved the evening. She sort of grabbed the mic from the hero and said, you know something, ladies and gentlemen, the real heroes of this event are those 9 girls who are going to be climbing the mountain. And with this, the Hollywood man made a exit, followed by 8 goons. Then we all broke for refreshments outside in the garden. I was choking on those samosas, trying to say, how can you even go up on stage and say something like this? If you can't say anything, just keep your mouth shut. But this fellow's perfectly capable of saying this. Who he is, you may want to figure out later. I am not going to solve the puzzle. Now, I think we have one more stop. 2 more stops. Are we okay with that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We have around 15 minutes to finish.
Yeah. 2 more stops. I'll make it very quickly. Now, Muttaya said, go to Greaves Road. Greaves Road has inaugurated its first all-woman police station. Go meet the inspector and do a picture story, whatever. So I'm there with my battered Nikon, and one constable. Okay, when I'm saying constable, everybody's lady is here. But it's the identical police station as a clone to one side, except it's all ladies police station. So constable asked me who I am. I explained myself. Then I asked me to sit down in that veranda, and 3-4 constables still chatting when a lady in a sari walked up. Suddenly, the 4 constables stood up and saluted. In fact, I almost stood up and saluted. I didn't know what they're saluting for. The lady in the sari was the said inspector. So I said, Ennanga, so and so, Raghavan. Say, ulla vanga. Now, note my point. Avanga dhaan ulla varsananga. Nana pola. Ulla vanga. So I went inside and sat in her room. And pleasantries began. உங்களுக்கு எந்த ஒரு எனக்கு காரமடை இங்க காரமடை some place in Coimbatore. She kept chatting this, that. Tea சாப்பிடுறீங்களா, coffee சாப்பிடுறீங்களா? And with this pleasantries were beginning to wear off. Okay. Then at some point, I picked up my camera and put it on the table, and this inspector felt decidedly uncomfortable. She kept staring at the camera, staring at me, looking around, all very, very uncomfortable. At one point, she just let go. Sir, இங்க வெளில போறீங்களா? நான் போட மாத்தி யூனிஃபார்ம் மாட்டோம். வெளில போங்க. So I was unceremoniously sent out. Doors and windows were banged. Then I went back. She called me in. Of course, did some good pictures. And there's picture of her with Jayalalitha, picture of her with a team of constables, and so on and so forth. Now, it brings me to the last anecdote. It is, as I've been relating so far, usually it was Mr. Muttaya who will say, go here, do this. Why don't you research that? He'll give me the tip. There is always the odd occasion when I used to go and show him some pictures which I did on my own and say, Mr. Muttaya, how do you think this will fly? So there was one such signboard. We did a series on signboards. Madurai Meenakshi Amman Mess, full Chinese menu. Okay. Then this was particularly funny because it was on Eldams Road, and I saw this board while I was driving around on Eldams Road with my sister Ammu. Then I realized I must come back and do this picture. The next day I was back, parked my scooter somewhere, and took picture of the signboard, got it developed by Kannappan, 8x10 bromide prints, went and gave it to Muttaya. And he looked at the picture for a long time and he said, tapped it and he said, Madras Musings is going to run this photo. and Madras Musings did run it. What was it? It was a men's hair cutting salon. The board said Majestic Saloon. Below that it said officer cutting, boy cutting, step cutting, boob cutting. I thought I'll mention, since it's already published in the musings.
I remember this headline, of course.
So this sort of brings me to the end of my hilarious trip down memory lane. And ladies and gentlemen, this session is not about me. It's my tribute to Mr. Muthaya, close friend and confidant. He was such a good friend. He used to keep calling me whenever he felt bored. And whatever drink, Maya? Whatever drink, Maya? That kind of thing. So we indulge on that as well. So wherever he is, may his soul rest in peace. I'm sure he's looking down at us and laughing it off too, because I'm jogging his memory as well. For many of you, it's the first time. But these memories, I will never forget ever. There are more. They're probably X-rated. I don't want to talk about it now or never. But we'll do that some other time if we can at all achieve it. Thank you.
Rags, there were a couple of questions. You haven't shown us those photos. We are still waiting.
We are going to do that now.
Yeah. So I think you are a co-host already, so you should be able to share your screen.
Yeah, I can. 1 second, sure. But before that, a little introduction about these pictures. These pictures have nothing to do with musings, but it was Mr. Muthaya who set me on the long, wonderful trail of street photography and travel photography, where I could, walk up to an unknown individual and say, look, can I take your picture? I never had the guts to do that before. But Mr. Muthaya who set me on that path, I used to do this. I got so used to taking pictures of people. So as a result, I blossomed into a street photographer, travel photographer, and so on. It's my favorite topic is the human condition, which I like to portray intimately. A sample of those are here. We did a lot of editing to make sure those pictures are all based, are Madras based, not in Lisbon or wherever, but Madras based, and then they must have a touch of humor to it. So I shall now share my screen. 1 second, sorry. Open the wrong. Yes. Now, where are we on Zoom? Yeah, share screen.
Yeah.
It's slices of life, candid moments. It's candid moments which I like to shoot. Yes, as a photographer, I've been there, done that. I've been portraiture, wildlife, this, that, but I've settled down on this kind of stuff. The great thing about street photography is you can step out of the house and still do pictures. If you wanted to take pictures of a tiger, you have to spend ₹1 lakh to go to Ranthambore. It's like that. So I much prefer this. I'm not comparing the two genres. Wildlife is something else. This is something else. So this is the kind of stuff I do. There's always the caption is always a question mark. It's almost like she's saying, "Hello, police station," something like that. The other man is answering from there, right? Go down, no?
Move the cursor bar.
Oh, sorry, of course.
Yeah.
I've done a whole series of pictures. It's called the stink eye series. Stink eye is somebody gives you a dirty look, no? We call it a stink eye in photographers' parlance. I've got a collection of pictures. It's largely when people sort of mentally objecting to taking your pictures, they glare at you, but the damage is already done. What do I do to repair the damage? Show the picture on the camera to the individual. Okay. There are cases when I made prints, gone back and given to the vendors and so on and so forth. All these gestures go a long way. So here's the father setting up his children to be a complete family. This is outside Inspector General's office on Beach Road, some years back. All candidates, nothing post. Now this one is the entire potato chips factory, godown, warehouse, retail, door-to-door sales, Swiggy, Zomato, all in one on two wheels. This was near Mamalapuram. How this man ever balances himself on those things, I don't know. Then, young boxers on the marina. They're always sparring there. And at one point, I was taking pictures and said, look, let me do something interesting. I walked up to these boys and said, look, I'm going to lie down on the ground. You guys fight over me. I shoot as much as I can. So sure enough, they started punching each other. I picked this shot because there are these two pigeons which happen to fly. So I added the extra element to it. But there's another picture here where this boy with the blue gloves is actually landing a punch on this fellow's face. But except that he's moved further into the frame and I can see right up his pants. So I said, no, I'm not going to use this picture. Right? This is an old favorite of mine. It's called The Chairman. It's on the Kelambakam Road. I went past this man carrying these chairs. Then I said that will make a good picture. So went further about a kilometer or so, parked the car and waited for him to come back, get past me. Then I started shooting pictures. When he went past me, I realized he's not only carrying 25 chairs, he's also carrying his wife then up in front. See? This one I did in Besant Avenue. I saw this scene out on the opposite side of the road, not Besant Avenue, the Elliott's Beach Road. I saw this scene from the opposite side of the road. I saw this man sitting in browsing on his phone, and there's this very unique backdrop there. Lady holding a statue, holding a cup and so on. I said, why not? Should make a great picture. I went all the way up to this Besanagar church, did a U-turn, parked somewhere, walked up to this man, and this man hadn't taken his eyes off the phone. That is the power of our smartphone. I've got a whole series called the selfie syndrome. This man has taken it to other limits. He's doing a selfie with some cardboard cutouts. I've got a collection of incredibly funny selfie pictures, which I can share at some other point. Maybe it calls for another occasion. More than happy to share all this with you. But this is why I keep my eye open for stuff like this happening. I always travel with a little camera with me, even now. This is in Tiruvannur. Now, this man's shop is the size of a cupboard. He repairs old stereos and radios and ball sets and this and that. For him to access his shop, he has to climb over that desk, then lower himself into the other side. Reasonably sure there's no stool there. He's probably sitting on two old radios. This is how this man works. Graphically, it's a very, very powerful picture for me. Okay, have I missed? I think I missed some. That's it. I just put together a very short series for you guys.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Rags. Firstly, thanks a ton for bringing Mr. Mutaya back to all of us during Madras Week celebrations. Certainly, without him, there is no Madras Week. Because, he would always begin his speeches by saying, without the British, there was no Madras, there is no Chennai either. And I would always disagree with him on that statement. But without him, there is no heritage awareness of Chennai. He was the man who really brought single-handedly, I mean, he fought for it. And today, if there is a group that works on this, it is because of him completely. And it just shows, you mentioned that even in an era when there was no Google, he knew where what was. And then, and very often I remember I would go around and come back with something and thinking that, this is something new. He would never ever discourage and say, I have already worked on this. But you would discover 5 years later, after I had written it and it had been published and all that, that this had already happened. And Mr. Mutaya had already written about it. So there was very little that he really didn't know about the city. And it was amazing the way he could carry all that information in that head of his. I really thank you for this wonderful tribute that you paid him today. And as always, as in all the people who have volunteered this week for Madras Week Talks, you'll get a copy of Madras Inked by Sujata Shankar and Manohar Devdas, and sponsored by the Chennai Willingdon Corporate Foundation.
Thank you so much.
Which published the book. And there is also a box of chocolates that should arrive on Monday or Tuesday from Cocoa Treats, who decided that they had to, they just came on one day and called me and said, this is wonderful. We want to send a box of chocolates to everybody who's speaking on your set of events. So you'll get that also from our side as an expression of our gratitude. Thank you all members of the audience for having been there. Once again, apologies for the delayed start, entirely due to a technical goof up on our side. And thanks, Rags, for being the sport that you are, for still being around. And thanks a lot, members of the audience. Thank you very much. Good night. Tomorrow is the last programs of the evening of Madras Week this year. We have Satyan Bhatt speaking on Porshavakkam that was. And that is, I think, between 7 and 8. And then between 8 and 9, I have a talk on why Chennai is a medical capital today. It's about the very inspiring medical history of Chennai city. So thank you so much for having been here with all of us as part of celebrants of Madras Week. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. We should do this again at some point.
Yes, we should. Bye.